The Last of Us was commonly cited as the best video game of all time, and sure, I agreed it was definitely on the list, but it wasn't until The Last of Us Part 2 emotionally ruined me and spawned an obsession with the franchise that continues to financially ruin me that I loved it as much as everyone else. Last of Us means everything to me, so despite initially being against this TV show, I haven't been able to contain my excitement this past week, and I'm going to be doing a weekly spoiler-filled review as all 9 episodes come out. Okay, so as you can tell by not only the volume but the tone of my voice, back in the unscripted shed, which I was not last week because I was in a bad mood, partly because episode 2, honestly, it kind of fucking sucked. But now I'm in a better mood, so I'm back in the unscripted shed, and the reason I'm in a better mood is because this was easily the best episode yet. You know, after episode 2, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it one more, and if it's not good, then I'm gonna abandon this show, you know. And the reason why I was giving it one more is, first of all, I feel like 3 episodes is typically the rule of thumb, you know, but also because from the trailer, it seemed like it was diverting so wildly, like it was wildly different from the game, that it was like, okay, it's either going to be awful or it's going to be amazing, no in between. And yeah, it was really, really good. And I think the main reason for that is because, hold on, is because this episode they weren't trying to adapt the gameplay, which I felt was done kind of poorly, because, you know, you're comparing a video game experience to a TV experience, which is obviously going to be, you know, the TV experience is obviously going to be far worse. So now that they're not trying to, like, directly adapt the gameplay, it's actually fucking good, because, you know, they're doing something different. But yeah, anyway, as always, this is a spoiler-filled review for both the show and for 2 video games. I'm going to go through my notes that I wrote in chronological order as I was watching it. My first note being, oh fuck, first ad break, just realised I wasn't writing notes. Maybe why I was enjoying it more. So that was my... Yeah, okay, so my second note, obviously, like, I feel like my second biggest criticism, or at least, well no, I'd say it's my biggest criticism purely because it's disappointed me the most, because obviously I knew that adapting a game into a lesser medium wasn't necessarily going to be that great. But my second criticism has been that Bella's voice isn't good. I think, you know, I think her line delivery isn't that great. I think the accent that he's been doing just isn't good. And it was still sounding off in the beginning, but I think by the end, I think I'm just used to it now. You know, I have seen other people say that this is an issue, but only in the Last of Us subreddit. So I just want to know if newcomers are also like, what's up with her fucking voice? And if it's just because I'm so used to Ashley Johnson. But also what is interesting is that I think Bella is fucking amazing with the facial expressions. She's really got the facial expressions down. They're fantastic at doing that. But just the line delivery, Bella isn't the best at doing like that teenage angst compared to Ashley Johnson, which is weird because Ashley Johnson, she was coming up to 30. I think she was like 28 or 29. She was coming up to 30 when the first game released, whereas Bella, I think, must have been 18 when they filmed this, which is like, how are you not as good at doing like the teenage angst of Ellie compared to a 30-year-old woman? Like, come on, Bella. I wanna love you as Ellie. And you know, after this episode, you know, I think I just needed some time to warm up to Bella is all, because Ellie means so much to me and Ashley Johnson is incredible. Because Joel is kind of like, yeah, whatever. You know, he's a gruff guy, but Ellie is just so complex that I just kind of couldn't really picture someone else playing her. So I think maybe that's why, but also Bella's voice. Get a better dialect coach or whatever the fuck. Oh, and yeah, and also because for some reason I'm watching this as it airs on Now, which is essentially HBO in the UK, and for some reason there were no subtitles this episode, so I had to watch it much louder than I usually do, and Pedro's voice was like super bassy, only at the beginning, because about halfway through my headphones died, so I had to watch it through the TV speaker. But yeah, I just want to know if that's a problem anyone else had, if anyone else watching with headphones was like, Pedro's voice is going straight into my body, and I don't like how that feels. Oh yeah, Ellie jealous of Joel being able to like fly in an aeroplane made me sad. And obviously, that's not a good quality of the show. That it's just because it makes me think of that scene in Last of Us 2, you know, and just, you know, knowing the games that Ellie is really into, you know, space and all that shit. And also it happens at the end as well, where she says, being in a car for the first time. It's like a spaceship, and just, oh, it makes me so fucking happy. Oh yeah, exposition about the flower feels more like expo because it's not passive. And so first of all, we got confirmation on the flower theory. That was a big thing. On Reddit, they were like, the infection spread through flour, and everyone was like, yeah, okay, sure, I don't care, because that's not what Last of Us is about for me. But yeah, we got confirmation on that this episode. It's interesting. I think the reason why, because obviously Last of Us is his whole thing is like minimalist storytelling, which I love. Show don't tell. It's very subtle, and that's what makes it such a great fucking game, and what's so interesting about it being adapted into television, where it's expected that TV is more subtle and then games are more for the dumb brains, whereas with this show I feel like it's the other way around. But also I think another reason why it feels more dumb brain is because when you're given exposition in a video game, you're also doing something else, so you're kind of just passively listening to the exposition but still taking it in. But whereas with exposition in a TV show, because the only thing you're doing is taking in the exposition, it feels more like exposition. Either way, I thought it was fine. I didn't have an issue with it. They were bound to talk about that at some point, and it's fine. It's world building. Oh yeah, here's another thing. My biggest criticism not my biggest criticism, but definitely the one I got the most passionate and riled up about in the first episode, which I think was actually cut out of the YouTube version because of fucking copyright, because they used a copyrighted clip, even though it was fair use, whatever. Anyway, it's on the Spotify podcast version. Oh yeah, this is on Spotify. If you want to listen to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, it's there. Search Policulasi and it will be there on the podcast feed. But my biggest thing about, I was very passionate about, pretty much I hate when they give title cards for like dates in stuff, because we don't need it unless it acts as like, a chapter, like in the games, summer, fall, winter, spring, but here it just acts as, people watching this are dumb brain. But in episode 1, there's the title card of 20 years later, and then there's another title card literally 2 seconds later saying 2023, even though we already had a title card at the beginning of the episode saying 2003, so we don't need, we don't need either, because we can tell it's 20 years later from the big destroyed city, but also, you don't need 2, like, you don't even need 1, let alone fucking 2. And yeah, that was another issue that I had with this. Just a lot of title cards that were just the date, and it's like, I can tell time has passed. You're just an absolute fucking moron if you can't tell time has passed. This is a big pet peeve of mine in filmmaking. You don't need a title card telling me the date. I can tell when time has passed, because I know how shit works. You don't need to say 10 years later when Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett suddenly look, I don't know, 10 years older. I'm talking about this way too much. This very minor thing, but also it fucking aggravates the shit out of me. Here's another note. Quite nice seeing Bill enjoy his isolation. Up until very recently, that's something that I've always related to. I've always been like, I prefer being alone. I want to be alone. So I kind of relate to Bill enjoying that and thinking that's what he wants. And then, he opens up. It was just nice seeing it, because in the game he's so bitter, like he's tricked himself into thinking that he prefers to be alone, and so it was kind of nice to see him actually enjoy being alone in this. And it was especially nice because I thought he was eventually going to get more and more bitter, because obviously this diverts wildly from the games. Bill and Frank don't split up. They have a little team suicide. There's an actual word for that. It's not suicide pact, that's something different. Group suicide, pair suicide, suicide pairing. Is it? Anyway, so obviously it was a different outcome, but obviously I didn't know it was going to be that. So at the time I was like, this is especially nice, because knowing that he becomes so bitter later on, but he doesn't become bitter. He's like, I love Frank, and we don't split up in the show. Oh yeah, but when obviously they do meet, and Murray Bartlett is in the shower. I love him. He's fantastic. But yeah, there was, when Murray Bartlett's in the shower and he's like, hey, I brought you some clothes. There was a really good facial expression from Nick, showing that I feel like he just really conveyed super well that he's like, oh fuck, I'm getting attached and I know I shouldn't get attached, like he knows it's dangerous to get attached, because as in the game there's the line where it's like, I can't remember it exactly, but it's like, getting attached to someone, feeling love for someone is good for one thing, getting you killed, which, I'll talk about it later, but that foreshadows, Joel's death in part 2, which I have a note on later on. I have like 2 whole pages of notes this episode. That's how much I liked this. And I didn't even like write notes for like the first 20 minutes. But yeah, I just thought that was a really good, as people on the Marvel Studios subreddit would say, such a good acting moment. I think Offerman was just very good at conveying that. Like, this moment of, like, attachment is bad, but oh fuck, I know I'm going to get attached. My next note is just, just kiss already, you two beautiful boys. And then a sub note, once they did. Okay, it was cute, but also, are people really out here kissing that quickly after they've first met? But also my next note is old people discovering their sexuality is so sweet to me. And what I found especially interesting is because obviously Bill, you know, he's been gay his whole life, but he's never experienced that, probably because, you know, what's expected of men in society, and also it's 2003, so it's especially less you know, good. You know, I've been watching Sopranos these past couple of weeks, and I got to that episode today where that woman gets attacked because she's trans, and you know, that was around the same time. So, you know, I mean, that obviously still happens now, but in that episode of Sopranos, it's treated like it's nothing. And I know it's the whole point of this isn't a review of Sopranos, but it's a good show. Unpopular opinion, Sopranos is a good show. But yeah, especially, and I thought what was interesting, I don't know if this was intentional, because I haven't listened to the podcast yet, I've only listened to like the first 5 minutes, because honestly, it's a bad podcast. The one for the games was so much better. Troy Baker just, I love him. It feels like he's putting on a performance, pretending to care about the show, and so there's something about Craig Mazin that feels so smug to me. And then, you know, Neil Druckmann's there just being Neil Druckmann. I have nothing bad to say about him. Other than, you know, Crunch Time isn't great. But they're moving away from that. So that's good. But yeah, he finally feels comfortable to kind of explore his sexuality, because probably the reason that he didn't, and the reason he had convinced himself that he's fine with being alone, when deep down he really craves a connection with someone, which is probably why he was so quick to kiss Frank and start a relationship with him, is because he's never been able to explore it. But once, you know, society has collapsed, and with it its expectations, he's immediately like, okay, yeah, let's have some good old gay sex. And yeah, just, you know, that, like, gay old men is just very heartwarming to me, because you know that they haven't, because you know that there's a big chance that they've only discovered it later in life, you know, when it's, not necessarily when it's too late, but just thinking of all the lost time they've had. You know, this shit just really gets to me. Gay old lovers. Whew. And what I liked is that, first of all, I didn't realise this was an hour 30 time slot. You know, it got to the shot where he's wheeling Frank to the bedroom, and I was like, okay, episode's going to end here. Nice little, you know, ending. Then there's an ad break, and I was like, oh, still going, fuck. But I think it was quite a nice way to bookend it. You know, start with Joel and Ellie, and then end with Joel and Ellie. Oh, and also that Joel and Ellie stuff at the beginning. I don't have any notes about it, because I forgot to. But yeah, it was good. It was, you know, it was Joel and Ellie stuff. It was good. I liked when Ellie stabbed that zombie. That was a good Ellie moment. And I'm excited for the scene where Joel awkwardly explains tampons to her. Or maybe that won't happen. It will happen. It will probably happen at the beginning of the episode, of next episode. They'll be driving in the car, and instead of Ellie being like, what's this porno mag? And you know, you have that joke. The joke will be with tampons or something. Because, tampons are so funny. No, it won't be that. It won't be that. Maybe we'll still have the porno mag joke. I don't think we will, but there will be some, we'll definitely still have the match cut of Ellie falling asleep. There's no way they'll get rid of that. Yeah, I just got a pretty broad note here. It's well structured in the way that it's, you know, as I said, bookended with Joel and Ellie, and how Joel and Ellie discovering the remains goes into 2003, and that, you know, then we follow the 20 years of Bill and Frank. I think that was a pretty good way to transition into that whole thing. And then I just got another broad note. They're so cute. Because Bill and Frank are very cute. And then I got another note here. This ep works better if you know the game, because obviously, if you haven't played the game and you're watching this for the first time, you're like, oh, this is so sweet. I love gay old men. But, you know, obviously playing the game, you're like, oh, fuck. Frank's gonna die. This is very bittersweet, and you know, I'm kind of dreading it, you know. And then the next note I wrote was they basically made Bill and Frank Joel and Sarah 2.0, you know, because like the opening of episode 1, the whole time you're watching that, you're dreading, waiting for the scene where, you know, Sarah dies, and I feel like with this it was the same, but you're dreading the moment for when Frank dies. And then I thought it was interesting subversion of making you think that, oh, actually, Bill is the one to die this time. when the raiders go, which by the way, I think that was paced quite weirdly. You know, Joel comes and says, hey, raiders are gonna come, and the next scene, raiders come, and it's like, is that the first time that ever happened? Is that the last time it happened? I don't know, I just felt like it was kind of, I don't know, it just felt weird. It just kind of felt out of place, and I feel like it was only there to make people who have played the game been like, oh, they're killing Bill this time. But then obviously it fades to black, and then, you know, you find out that he's ill and he's gonna die. He's like, hey, I'm killing myself. I've had enough. I can't go on like this. I'm having my Walter White moment, he says. And then Nick Offerman is like, that show never came out in this universe. The apocalypse happened in 2003. And then Frank just dies. He dies on the spot. That's a very funny joke. See, I'm funny. Also, if this is like your first video of mine you're seeing, this is a super low effort video. Like this series of videos I'm doing, like immediate first impressions of each Last of Us episode. Incredibly low effort while I'm saving up to get better PC parts. My whole style of videos is like really good hyper editing, so please watch something else before writing me off as, wow, this guy's really lazy. But yeah, anyway, my next note is, you know, you find out he's gonna suicide. And I write the note. Frank dying this way and Bill being less bitter eradicates foreshadowing of Joel's death, because obviously, in the game there's the line, getting attached or falling in love or having someone you care about is only good for one thing, getting you killed, which obviously foreshadows Joel's death in the second game. And I felt like without Frank killing himself, which the only reason for that is because he got attached to Bill, and obviously then Bill being bitter and preferring to be alone, and obviously being the opposite in the show, I was like, if they do part 2, which they are going to, you know, that foreshadowing is gone. But then a few notes later, I drew an arrow down because I have a few notes in between. Actually no, because you know, when Ellie is reading the suicide note, which, you know, they still got that bit, but instead of Frank's suicide note, it's Bill's suicide note. Well, of both of them, but Bill's the one who wrote it. I just wrote, actually no, because now it leans more into the idea that Joel is living to die as he's met his purpose of keeping Ellie safe, which, you know, Bill's letter essentially alludes to that, because the letter says something like, cold motherfuckers like us need to keep the people we love safe, or whatever, something like that. And I was like, oh yeah, that's Joel's whole thing. And, you know, in part 2 he dies because, you know, he was living to die one day. You know, he met his purpose. You know, for him, he felt like his purpose was to keep Ellie safe, which he did by stripping her of her purpose. You know, and once he did that, he felt that he could die happily, because he knows that Ellie is safe, and he does die. And so now, instead of Bill foreshadowing his death by saying love is good for one thing, and that's getting you killed, his letter foreshadows that his purpose is keeping it. You get it. You get what I'm saying. I didn't fucking repeat myself. But yeah, I thought that was nice. And, you know, Pedro's like the shot of him, you know, while Ellie's reading the letter, and he's like, oh fuck, damn, this kind of parallels my relationship with Ellie. This is crazy. He says that out loud, and I'm like, wow, this is really not subtle storytelling. Okay. I got another note here. Nice blocking of the dinner table, because obviously the first dinner they sit at opposite ends of the dinner table because they don't know each other. But then the final dinner they have together, they're you know, doing the side sit, which is a very controversial thing to do in that one episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Curb Your Enthusiasm is such a funny fucking show, man. If you've got HBO Max, or Now, just to watch Last of Us, while you've got it, do yourself a favor and watch Curb Your Enthusiasm. It is so fucking funny. The first season isn't that great, but after that, oh wow. It's just some of the best. It's my favorite sitcom, personally. But yeah, he's side-sitting, which, you know, shows how their relationship has grown over the years, and how they, you know, yeah, you get it. You get the fucking symbolism and how that shit works. My next note is, I love gay old people. My next note, for a moment it seemed like Bill forgot Tess existed, because not only with the letter, because, you know, the envelope says to whoever comes across it or whatever, probably Joel, and I was like, why not probably Joel and Tess? Because it seemed like Frank at least was closer with Tess than Joel, and it just seemed that with Bill probably not liking either of them with how he is, it would seem like he would also like Tess more because Frank likes Tess more for obvious reasons. So it just seemed weird to me, unless it's because Bill sees a lot of himself in Joel, because they are very similar. You know, they are both bitter old men, but also in this version in the show, he's not bitter like Joel. So it was kind of just, anyway, after he gets shot and he's like, cool Joel, and I was like, why doesn't he say Tess or Joel and Tess? Because it seems like they have a closer relationship with Tess. And then Tess, like, I straight up just forgot they've forgotten Tess existed. Like, the writers just forgot Tess existed. And then no, the letter says keep Tess safe. And I was like, you're really just reducing Tess to one mention in the note? And it just seemed weird to me because it seemed like they were closer with Tess. But also maybe they're misogynistic and think she's not capable. Fuck. You know, it's possible. Just because they're gay doesn't mean they're not sodges. Oh yeah, my next note is when they're in the car and Ellie says like a spaceship, and that made me be like, ah! I love Ellie. I fucking love Ellie so much. Oh man, I think about that scene a lot in part 2. Just, oh, it's so fucking sweet, but it's so sad as well. This isn't a review of the game. This isn't. I can go on and on about part 2. Like, honestly, it's a miracle that these podcast episodes, immediate review videos, whatever I'm dubbing them, haven't just turned into rambling about part 2. Like, my self-control is incredible. But yeah, and then my final note was what I said at the beginning. Now that they're not trying to adapt the gameplay, it's actually good. You know, because they don't have, I don't think I said this at the beginning. Which is why, it's, they don't have the school bit. Because the whole point of that was that, Bill shows you around the town. And, you're essentially, it's a video game, you've got to pad for time, there needs to be traversal, and there needs to be a mini-boss, which there is with the bloater in the school. But obviously with this being a TV show, you don't need those gameplay elements, and so it was a good choice to just scrap it, because you don't need it when adapting it to a medium where you're not doing anything. So yeah, I thought that was smart, that they just scrapped that. Because you don't need it unless you're playing the game, because when you're playing the game, there needs to be an objective, and when you're playing the game, the objective is, alright, I gotta fucking go to this school to get the fucking battery, and oh fuck, there's a big zombie here, I guess I gotta kill it. Oh fuck, I died. Alright, there we go, I killed it. Now let's go back. Okay, now I got the car. Fucking sick. Whereas in the TV show, the only thing you're doing is sitting at the end of your bed writing notes so you can upload it to your shitty fucking YouTube channel. But yeah, anyway, that was it. Hopefully this video was better. Hopefully I sound less... Oh man, last week I was not in a great mood even before I watched the episode, and I was very tired, whereas today I woke up at 5 p.m. The benefits of having a night shift job, everyone. Oh no. But yeah, and also for some reason last week's video just did super well. I don't know why. I think because I used close-up shots of like the actual episode. I think that's why it got more clicks. And also because I uploaded it quicker. Because like there's a YouTube thumbnail trick. Is like if you want to get more clicks, just make the thumbnail a close-up of someone's face. That's why like all those gaming kids channels are just a guy screaming, because it gets more clicks. Like not even for kids, people just, they see a face and they're like, oh, human, I'm gonna click on this. Or at least that's what I assume. I don't know. That's probably why it did better, because it was 2 close-up shots of people from the actual episode and not promo art. Anyway, I hope this video does better, because I don't sound like I want to shoot myself in the fucking kneecap. But yeah, this was a far better episode because it was so wildly different from the game, because it didn't feel like they were adapting the game. They made it its own thing, and if they can continue to do that with just little elements from the game, then I think this will be a good show. But I worry that this was their award bait episode, because 2 sad old gay men and they die. I'm scared that it's just going to go back to what episode 2 was, where it's just quite boring because it's the game, but I'm not playing it, But yeah, this episode was very sweet. It was very well paced, which obviously another big issue I had with episode 1 and 2 is that pacing was all over the place. But yeah, it's just nice. It was a very good episode. I doubt they'll be able to top it. Yeah, anyway, I really hope Abby makes an appearance. I'm pretty sure she will, because I remember when the show first got announced, Neil Druckmann tweeted, like, he teased that Abby was going to make an appearance. And I can't wait for that. I fucking love Abby so much. And it's going to be so interesting to see a certain group of people who don't love Abby just be like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck? Hopefully it will stay like this. I really doubt it will. But you know, this whole day I was dreading having to watch this, and I was fully expecting to be like, I'm not making a video. I'm done with this. And then it was really good. It was really good. You know, the Joel and Ellie stuff was good, and then the Bill and Frank expansion was really good as well. Yeah, no, it's fucking fantastic. Yeah, thanks for watching or listening. Yeah, I think that's it. I think I'm gonna go edit this now. Yeah, I hope this was more entertaining, because I wasn't in I'm tempted to go into the kitchen, grab a knife and stab myself in the thigh mood. I was in I'm gonna go into the kitchen and get an apple, because I want to eat an apple. That's what I did while I was watching the episode. During the ad break, I was like, I want an apple. I went into the kitchen, I got an apple, and I ate an apple. Anyway, that's super. I'm not gonna leave. I'm cutting that out. What the fuck?